All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a topic that's, well, it's both sensitive and, frankly, quite unsettling.
Hmm.
It's this persistent rumor about Elvis Presley and his mother, Gladys. You sent in a lot of material on this, articles, podcast snippets, things like that,
Yeah.
all asking, really, where did this claim about an alleged incestuous relationship even come from? And, what's the real story?
Exactly.
So our mission today is to try and cut through that noise, understand the origins, why it spread,
And what the facts actually show.
and most importantly, hear from the people who actually knew Elvis and Gladys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, this is a really interesting, though disturbing example of how a damaging rumor can just, take root,
Mm-hmm.
especially with public figures,
Right.
and especially when it touches on something so deeply personal. We're going to look at the specific claims, try to trace them
See
back.
where they started. Uh-huh. And then apply that critical lens. See what holds up. Because what's fascinating, I think, is how this one accusation can just overshadow a really complex human bond.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the what, but also the why. Why did this story catch on? And honestly, why it's important to set the record straight for them, for their legacies.
Okay, so to really untangle this, we have to go right back to the beginning.
The source.
Exactly. Who first put this idea out there? Who
Yeah.
cast this shadow? And the material you sent us, it seems to point pretty directly to one individual, D. Stanley Presley.
Right,
Now, she was Vernon Presley's second wife,
Elvis's father.
Elvis's father, yeah,
Okay.
meaning she married Vernon after Gladys had already passed away.
That's a key point. She came later.
And she went public with these claims, I think it was in the 1980s, mostly through tabloids.
Yeah, places like the National Enquirer, very sensational outlets.
And the quote that really seems to have fueled it all was something like, "There was something not quite right about Elvis and his mother's relationship." Just vague enough, but potent.
Mm-hmm. Which immediately begs the question, why? Why make such a damaging claim?
What's the motive?
The sources we looked at suggest a few possibilities. Things like resentment, maybe a desire for attention,
Or money.
or even financial gain, yeah. And you have to remember the context, the 80s.
Right.
Tabloid culture was really fixated on Elvis's later years, the perceived decline, the drug use.
So this fit a certain narrative.
It did. It wasn't just like idle gossip. One source called it character assassination dressed up as concern.
Wow. That's strong.
And it wasn't ignored. It drew immediate backlash from people who actually knew the family.
Okay, so the accusation is made. It's out there in these tabloids. But what about the people who were really there, living it, day in, day out?
The inner circle.
Yeah, the so-called Memphis Mafia. People literally in the house with Elvis and Gladys. What did they say when this stuff surfaced?
Well, that's where the story gets, I think, really compelling. Because the
Yeah.
reaction wasn't just dismissal. It was genuine outrage.
Yeah. People like Lamar Fike, Marty Lacker. They didn't just wave it away.
What did they say specifically?
Well, Lamar Fike, who was a really close associate, he famously called it total nonsense. "I knew Gladys. That never happened." Just flat out.
Okay. Unequivocal.
Completely. And Marty Lacker, another core member of that group, he said, "I said on camera, there is no way in the world that happened."
So, strong denials.
Very strong. And maybe even more personally, Elvis's first cousin, Billy Smith,
He grew up with Elvis. Right.
exactly, grew up right alongside him. He expressed really strong feelings about it. He said something like, "Elvis and Gladys were close, yes, but the lies that have been told, it makes my blood boil."
Oh, wow. Makes my blood boil. That's intense.
It is. And that unity, that consistent angry denial from the people closest, it really speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It does. It's not just defending him. It feels like they're defending a truth they witnessed.
Exactly. So the question then becomes, if the inner circle is so adamant it's false, what was the truth about their relationship, according to the sources?
Yeah.
What did that closeness actually look like?
Right. Because close can mean many things.
Precisely. And what's really powerful is not just the denials, but the collective silence from that inner circle about any hint of impropriety. It's everyone who was there saying no.
Okay.
And the research, the sources you sent, they paint a picture of an incredibly intense emotional bond, but one that was deeply shaped by their shared experiences. Profound trauma, for one, extreme poverty, and critically, the devastating loss of Elvis's twin brother, Jesse Garon, at birth.
Oh, right. I'd forgotten about the twin. That's huge.
It is. It forged this incredibly tight unit right from the start, just Gladys and her surviving son against the world, in many ways.
That puts their bond in a completely different light, doesn't it? When you've gone through that kind of loss and hardship together.
The intensity makes more sense. It's almost like a survival mechanism.
And the sources confirm some of the details that maybe fueled the rumors, like Elvis sleeping in the same bed with Gladys.
Yes, they confirm that happened. But up until his early teens, and crucially, they provide context.
Which was?
This was actually a common practice in Southern poverty during the Depression era. It wasn't unusual. It was often born out of sheer necessity. Small houses, not enough beds, close family living arrangements.
Okay, so context is everything here.
Absolutely. And yeah, he had pet names for her, called her Satinin. He used baby talk with her sometimes.
Which might sound odd to us now.
It might. But she, in turn, absolutely doted on him. He was, by all accounts, her entire world after losing Jesse.
So it comes down to perspective again.
It really does. The sources emphasize that while their closeness might seem maybe unusual to outsiders today.
Looking back from our time?
Exactly. You absolutely have to understand the context of their time, their circumstances, their specific history, the poverty, the loss, the Southern culture of the era.
And the conclusion from those who knew them was?
That no boundaries were crossed. Their bond was intense, yes, but fundamentally misunderstood by people unfamiliar with that specific background.
Cool.
It was, as the sources firmly state, overprotection, not perversion.
Overprotection, not perversion. That's a critical distinction.
Vital. Especially when we analyze historical relationships. We can't just impose modern views without understanding the full picture.
Okay. So if that was the true nature of their bond, intense, protective, shaped by trauma and poverty, but not improper. Let's circle back to the source of the rumor again, D. Stanley Presley.
Right. The accuser.
Knowing what we now understand about Elvis and Gladys, her motives become even more critical to examine. And there are a couple more key facts here. We mentioned she married Vernon after Gladys died.
Meaning she never actually knew Gladys at all.
Correct. She had no firsthand experience of the mother-son relationship she was commenting on.
That's pretty damning, isn't it? For her credibility on this specific issue.
It seems so. And the material also highlights that Elvis himself reportedly disliked Dee, actively disliked her.
And distanced himself from her.
Purposefully distanced himself, yeah. And there were also rumors mentioned in the sources that she was cut out of the Presley estate eventually.
Yeah.
Which leads to speculation, obviously unconfirmed but plausible, that she might have been bitter and maybe went on a press spree to, I don't know, get back at them or gain something.
Well, it leads directly back to that question of motive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How does someone who never knew Gladys feel qualified to comment on that relationship, especially with such a grave, damaging accusation?
It's a fair question.
And the sources strongly suggest, or at least raise the possibility, that it could have been an attempt to get even with Elvis, who disliked her, or maybe just to stay relevant, stay in the public eye after being potentially cut off financially or socially.
That pattern of personal grievance leading to public accusation.
We see it time and again, unfortunately. And it really underscores why you have to critically evaluate the source. Who is saying this, and why might they be saying it? What's their potential agenda?
Exactly. So fast forward to today. Decades later, the key players are gone. Why does setting the record straight on this particular rumor about a long-deceased star still matter? What does it mean for us now?
Well, I think fundamentally we owe it to their memory, right? To Elvis's memory, and just as importantly to Gladys's memory.
To ensure the story told about them is based on facts.
Based on facts, not on fabrication, especially such a dark fabrication. This rumor, it profoundly disrespects both of them.
Yeah.
And what comes through consistently in the research, in the words of those who knew him best, is that if Elvis were alive, this particular rumor would have absolutely devastated him.
Because of his love for his mother.
His deep, respectful love for his mother. Spreading unverified claims like this, especially ones that attack character so fundamentally, they have lasting, damaging effects on legacies, on public perception, even long after people are gone.
It serves as a pretty powerful reminder for all of us, too, doesn't it? About being critical consumers of sensational stories.
Definitely. What responsibility do we have to the truth? Even about historical figures, we need to base our understanding on evidence, not just on headlines designed to shock.
You know, this whole deep dive, it really highlights how fast a lie can spread.
And how stubborn it can be.
Yeah, how tenacious, especially when it taps into that public fascination with celebrities and scandal. But it also shows the power of just careful examination. of digging deeper, seeking out the truth from primary sources.
Listening to the people who were actually there.
Listening to those who were truly there, day in, day out.
And ultimately, I think the Elvis and Gladys story, when you look past the smear, it serves as this profound case study in empathy, really.
How so?
It challenges us to look beyond our own norms, our own time, and ask the right questions. What were the economic realities back then?
Right.
What were the cultural expectations?
Yeah.
What were the personal traumas that shaped this specific intense bond?
Understanding the context.
Understanding the context. Because only then can we maybe start to distinguish what was just unconventional by our standards from something that was actually unacceptable or wrong. It helps ensure history isn't just rewritten by misplaced modern judgment.
That's a really important point. The truth is powerful. And so is love, even a complex, intense love like theirs, even when it's misunderstood. But let's try to make sure the story we tell, the story we accept, isn't just a lie dressed up as a shocking headline.
Well said.
So as you go about your week, maybe consider this. What stories are you accepting at face value? And what deeper truths, what other contexts might be waiting there for you to uncover if you just dig a little deeper?